My name is Brian Wallace, and I'm the director here at the Thorne. I've been here since June of 2015, and prior to that, I was working at Bryn Mawr College in Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania, working with art and audiences, but in a really different and more behind-the-scenes kind of a way. So this has been a really nice change for me. I backed into the field of art history. As an undergraduate, I took an art history course my junior year and got the bug big time, and wound up writing my senior research paper on an artist. And the paper won the college's prize for a research paper, which then presented problems because art history wasn't a major at the time, and so the paper technically couldn't win the prize. So this was my introduction to kind of academic politics as well as art history. It made sort of a good story many years later, but it was a weird and frustrating experience at the time. So then I went on to study art history and then work as a curator at a science and technology museum, and then at some other contemporary art institutions. And so here I am now. Well, I've been to many. I'm lucky. It's my job to see what peers and colleagues or the competition are doing, and so I try to visit a lot of museums and galleries. I guess a couple of favorites would be the old Whitney Museum in New York, which is now closed. The Whitney has moved to a new building way downtown in New York City, and the plan is for the Metropolitan Museum of Art to take over the old Whitney space. The old Whitney was always a really tough place to show art. It was a very aggressive building, but when shows worked there, they tended to work really well and kind of draw a real intensity out of the artwork. So that's one. I've also really enjoyed some of the institutions where I've worked in the past. Got to work with an interesting architect named Stephen Hall on a new art museum out in suburban Seattle in Bellevue, Washington. And the Bellevue Art Museum has always been a favorite of mine. Also, there are a lot of artist-designed and artist-run spaces that aren't maybe in fancy buildings or well-known areas, but there are art centers in Kansas City and in Philadelphia, as well as some of the more far-flung parts in New York City. They're really interesting places to encounter new and exciting art. I've known for a while about the history of the Thorne here at Keene, and I had known the previous director through a professional organization that we're both members of, and I'd seen some of the questions she had asked in various forums and also some of the answers she'd provided to other people's questions, and I was really impressed with her and from what I could tell from a distance, the exhibits and other programs here at the Thorne. I've worked in public institutions as well as private, and I like the diversity that one can find in a public institution. There are a lot of people who are really happy to be here as students and as faculty and staff, and I really like the drive and the focus that I find on the part of a lot of the students. So those are some of the aspects that drew me to Keene. I'm also from New England a long, long time ago now, so I'm not put off by the weather, and in fact I'm looking forward to winter here, having spent a pretty nice summer. And so, I mean, those are maybe less important than some of the other components of the whole package here, but they're significant to me. Well, I have a lot of favorites, and one of the benefits of my job is I get to pick a new favorite fairly often. But right now, funnily you should ask, this painting here by a woman named Amy Lamb is one that we discovered well, not discovered, it's in the catalog. We all know it's here, but I hadn't given it a close look. But when we were going through the racks of paintings upstairs, preparing to put work into the renovated lobby, I gave this painting a fresh look. and the odd kind of muted colors and the interesting expressions. They're sort of inscrutable expressions of the two figures, as well as the kind of out of sequence with what's fashionable in art right now look of the painting really attracted me to it. So this one I like because I don't understand it, and I'm really intrigued by it, and it's making me aware of how much I don't know, and I like that. My advice for students interested in art history is to try to be really clear from the outset why you're interested and what you think the field is. The whole field of art history gets sort of used in different arguments about what is culture and what is art, and there are interesting kind of arguments that crop up, and I think that knowing what your interests are and then seeing whether art history or any one of its kind of little subsets matches up with those interests is a really useful first step. If you're an artist, I think it's valuable to know what other folks have done before you and at the same time as you. That's different though, and this is hard to articulate, but that's different though from feeling like you're an artist but you're not sure whether you want to pursue that, so you might choose art history instead. That to me personally is problematic. I would almost, if I could say, I would almost rather you go for it as an artist or go do something really different than think of art history, which is a discipline unto itself, rather than think of that as a sort of a second best. So all you art historians out there, you can come and talk to me at the Thorne and we can debate that further. In terms of changes to attract more people to the gallery, the first thing to say is that the gallery has been here for 50 years, and a lot of people have worked really hard to get it where it is and to keep it where it is. So I'm in a position of having the luxury of making some changes to a really solid base. So that said, I know that the student body has not been coming to the Thorne in the numbers and across the disciplines in the way that we would like. So renovating the lobby, instituting some study nights, and putting on some other programs that don't have their goal as their goal driving people into the galleries to see the art and like the art and love art, but just getting y'all in the door. Come into the building, sit here and study. Charge your phone, peek in the gallery, come to an event. We're doing study nights, I mentioned that. We're also having a couple of bands play in the loading dock in a couple of weeks. I really want people to feel like, along with some of the other kind of quasi-social spaces on campus, this is a space for people to come and hang out and have an interesting experience. So without kind of denying the complexity and beauty and weirdness of art, I want people to feel comfortable coming into the building and then on their terms having the kind of encounters that they'd like to have. Not yet. I'm really trying to figure out what it means to be an artist and an art venue and an art historian in this region. So how much do we focus on the region without just falling into kind of cliches about art from this region? How much do we push ahead with focusing on emerging artists versus established artists? Where are the collections of interesting art that I can pull from in the immediate area and a little bit further away? So I'm still kind of in question asking mode. I do want to present showcases of work by artists from the region. I do want to showcase faculty artwork. I do want to highlight student artwork, and I also want to bring some really different perspectives to the area to really challenge and help sort of like respectfully provoke new thinking. So working all those together into a coherent schedule that's affordable, promotable, that will make sense when you see different types of art alongside one another in our various galleries here. Working all that out is complicated. So I'm hoping It's October now. I'm hoping by the winter time to have a schedule for the next couple of years in place that we'll start to promote. Right now we have 3 different shows. We have another in a series of shows by a really important artist. In his day, Jules Olitsky was called by many influential critics the most important living American artist. And you can see in the really intense combination of recognizable and abstract imagery in his work, you can really see the power that he had as an artist. So we have a selection of large paintings and smaller works on paper by Jules Olitsky, many of which were lent to us by his daughter, who runs the artist's estate. Several others were lent back to us by folks in the community who had acquired them out of a previous show here at the Thorne. So it's nice to see some of those paintings and works on paper back in the museum. And it's been nice to see some of those folks coming around to see what their work looks like out of their living room and back here at the Thorne. We also have, as a complement to that, work by an emerging artist from Vermont, whose name was brought to my attention by some art faculty members here, Angus McCullough. He works in a similarly abstract way, a lot of focus on the process and on letting little accidents with his materials come together in interesting abstract compositions, somewhat analogous to Olitsky's method of working. Really different results. Angus's works look way more like car accidents or almost mistakes that you would find and be really attracted to in a computer graphics program. They're really fresh and really contemporary and a little bit aggressive in the way that Olitsky's are more kind of moody and monumental. The third show is a really interesting grouping of work by a whole different variety of artists from most of the decades of the 20th century who use tools or the imagery of tools in their very different artwork to make a whole bunch of different points about creativity and culture and the ways that artists rely on other artists' work and refer to other artists' work in their own pieces. The Thorne belongs to the students here at the college, and it also belongs to the community. And that's sometimes a little bit of an interesting fence to straddle. People in the community have devoted their money and their time and have donated artwork and dollars to the institution over the years. So I'm hoping that I can put on shows and events that will bring those different communities together. And hopefully sometimes those people will line up and they'll all tell me I'm doing a great job. And then maybe they'll all line up and say, you know, that's not such a good thing you've done there, Brian. Let's talk about that. So what I really want to do is put a bunch of ideas on the table, and it's such a cliche, but create a kind of a safe space where people can share their opinions. And you know, as long as people are willing to express what they really feel and to label their own subjective opinion as that and their own informed opinion as that, I think there's a lot of opportunity to talk about a lot of really complicated things, as well as just to enjoy the products of artists' imaginations. So I'm hoping that there'll be lots of different types of experiences here.